Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a city full of superheroes? To literally see people fly across the sky? Crap.
What are you up to, Angus?
Oh, hey, Sal. I'm trying to record an ad for the podcast.
Heroes don't do paperwork?
Yeah, that one.
Need any help?
Yeah, actually. I'm just trying to tell people about the show, about how you and I work at a newspaper in Super City, and how we interview various citizens, from the people we call neighbors to the city's greatest heroes. But I'm having trouble wording it.
You could just use that section you recorded and put that in.
Huh. Yeah, I suppose I could. Thanks, Sal.
Don't worry about it. I'm off to the office supplies store. It got hit with a shrink ray, so everything is 50% off. Want to come?
You know what? I kind of do. Oh, for those of you hearing this, if you want to hear more about the thrilling adventures and heroics of Super City, come check out Heroes Don't Do Paperwork on the Podcaster Network. All right, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura.
I'm Sam.
I'm Tong.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the Pixar pals, but you might know us as Disney Dummies.
I
We don't
like
need
I
that
can really
tongue.
now actually do the Disney Dummies thing now that I've been on an official.
Yeah.
Have you not been
podcast
doing
a
it
couple
because you know?
No, I
sits
have been, but
quietly.
I felt like an imposter. You know, like I didn't feel like I really owned it.
Oh,
until
I
now.
see.
Although
yeah.
I re-listened to that Disney Dummies episode, and I believe you're still on probation, Brad. It's not official, so
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
don't get too comfortable.
We'll see
is,
how this
getting
episode
close.
goes,
That's what I'm
Brad.
saying. Yeah, we'll see how things go. I mean, you're a fully fledged Pixar pal, but as for Disney Dummies, we'll have to wait until the next movie to really confirm. But we're not here to talk about Brad's probation. We're here to talk about this week's movie, which is Cars 3.
You gave a pause as if you were gonna say more build-up. Before
Yeah, I
you
thought
say
about it,
Yeah.
and then I decided that, you know what? In a lot of our podcasts, we've spent a lot of time just shitting on the Cars movies. So I didn't need to do more of that before introducing this one.
Oh my God.
Because longtime listeners, they know our thoughts and our
Hey,
feelings about the Cars
But
franchise.
Laura, what about first-time listeners? This is the first time.
First-time listeners,
Cars
this
3, what
is
an episode.
Disney Dummies / Pixar 3, the podcast
Pixar
where
3?
we Pixar Pals, the podcast where we shit on Cars 1 and Cars 2. And this week you're going to find out.
That's not the podcast.
I'm joking. We watched the Disney and Pixar animated features in chronological order and discussed them, I would say, intelligently, using fact-based data, definitely not just invoking feelings and random information we find on the internet that hasn't been verified. Only unprofessionals would do that, and we are professionals. Pixar pals, professionals. You can't argue with alliteration, right, everyone?
No, you're right.
But if you are, in fact, joining us for the first time or for the, 80th time? I think we're around episode 80 or something like that. Probably
think
more.
That's true.
Probably more. You know what? We're probably, I think we're getting close to episode 100. Because there's, there's 60. There's 60 Disney films.
There's 62 Disney films.
And there's, I think we're on like 18.
Yes.
So that makes 80. Plus we've had some bonus episodes.
Okay.
Vacation.
Yeah.
The ranked one. So I'm just saying we're getting close to 100,
We're
everyone.
getting close to 100. We're not at 100. Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine this was the 100th movie or 100th podcast. That'd be a real bummer, but that's okay. Yeah. So we're talking about Cars 3. And first time listeners, we didn't love the first two Cars movies. I'll be honest with you. And it was a bit of an adventure going into this one because we'd heard good things about Cars 3, hadn't we? But I hadn't seen it. Tung, had you seen it?
No, never seen it. But I have nostalgia for it.
Do you want to share that?
If we're going into it. Yeah. So I've never seen this, and I'm pretty sure none of us have seen it, I think. I'm looking around the room. No. But my nostalgia is kind of clear in the way that, like, I remember the promo for this movie and the trailer for this movie because it was kind of mind-blowing in the way that you're like, what is this trailer? Oh my God, it's Cars? Because the teaser trailer is fucking Lightning McQueen eating shit. Like, he's just turning, and he's like, we're going to talk about that scene in the movie, but like...
Flippity-flopping?
He has an accent, and he does the flips, and it's like, that is also one of the posters for the movie, too. So you're like, whoa, what's Cars doing? And then people, we talked about this in the last episode of Finding Dory, and maybe a few other times, too, but we heard it was good. That was the thing, was just like, hey, if you didn't like Cars 1 and 2, well, at least Cars 3 is good, which we will talk about. But that's my nostalgia anyways.
Sam or Brad, do you remember when this movie came out?
Yeah, I mean, mine, it's the same as Tongue. I do remember the trailer and being like, whoa, hardcore. But at the same time, I really didn't give a fuck about cars. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but still not going to go. And then I also did hear that it was actually good. And I was like, is it though? And so I just never saw it.
And Brad?
I didn't know this movie existed until we started doing these podcasts. And
What?
then you all mentioned that there was a third one. Yeah, I completely missed it. I think I was just so not interested in Cars after seeing the second one that my brain just like refused to see anything car related from Pixar after that.
I heard
But,
Brad only watched the Mater shorts instead. Just exclusively watching Mater shorts.
Yeah, but I did look up the poster because I think you mentioned it maybe the last podcast or one of them you mentioned the poster. So I looked it up, did not ring a bell. Yeah, I don't know. No nostalgia. So I went in with fresh eyes.
Is the poster, I could be making this up, but is it something like End of the Road? They have something like that type of...
It looks like a car ad, like a really
it's a car
expensive
flipping.
car ad.
Oh,
I think
there's
it's like a
few,
close-up
there's a few.
of part of the car.
Yeah.
And it's very dark.
Yeah, they're really like, I'm like looking them up now and they're really hyper realistic. Like it doesn't feel like a Pixar Cars cartoony thing. It's like a real fucking car.
Which is crazy because
That's what's going to get people into the seats, right, Disney?
Well, like that's true, but it's not true in the way that Cars is like, regardless of our feelings of Cars, like it is one of the biggest cash cows of Pixar, no doubt, right? So people are going to go see it anyways.
Yeah. And I'm similar to Brad in that I did not think this movie existed. People have talked about Cars 3 to me before, and I've been like, you mean Planes. It's called Planes. It was a direct-to-DVD release. Cars 3 doesn't exist. And I was
Planes
wrong.
a theater movie too? No, maybe I'm making that up.
It feels
I thought
like
made
a
lot of
direct-to-DVD.
It does feel like a direct-to-DVD movie.
But yeah, there was in fact a Cars 3, and I did not know that it existed until we got into doing this podcast. So I stand corrected, and also I'm a bit of a jerk for telling people that this movie didn't exist.
he's just gaslighting everybody about Cars 3.
Yeah, but
it couldn't have come to theaters because otherwise we would have watched Planes.
yeah. Yes, that's a really good point.
True. Yeah.
So we can confirm that this movie does in fact exist. And furthermore, we're going to hear what happens in this movie because Sam's going to give us a summary.
And Sam, if you could, you know how we like to like shorten summaries as quick as possible? Let's make this one as long as possible.
Well,
I don't think it could possibly be as long as the plot of Cars 2. So
It's true.
I took thorough note. Did I have to summarize Cars 2? No.
I did.
oh
Okay.
my gosh, that
It was
was
a tough one. There was a lot going on.
There's
There is a
so
lot.
much.
There's a lot going on. Hey, summary's hard, but anyways, I digress.
So Cars 2 is like all Mater. This movie is like zero Mater.
Yeah. Praise.
Is it a hot take to say that was the right choice?
Oh, 100% the right choice.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
sorry.
the amount of Mater we got in this movie was the correct amount of Mater, in my opinion.
Correct.
It's just why would you
feel like-
call a car tow Mater if it's not even red? You know what's
And I think it's like you could like make the joke or be like, okay, like Cars 2 had so much Mater, so there's like this balances it out, but it's like not even balanced because there was still too much Mater in Cars 2.
Oh,
Like,
in Cars 2.
That was in Cars 2. It was like a Mater movie. But I digress. I'll get into what Cars 3 is all about. And it's about racing. How can we make a third movie about racing still? Well, the second movie really wasn't about racing.
It
so,
wasn't.
you
It
know,
really wasn't.
you know, it's really only our second movie about racing now. So we open and it's a voiceover, and Lightning McQueen, our hero, who we really missed in the second movie, is back, and he's pumping himself up, just like getting in the zone for a race. And
I'm
he's
pretty
all like,
sure, is this not like basically the exact same opening as Cars 1?
I don't
It
remember
might be.
Cars
I think
1.
so, yeah.
It might be, but I think it's
Yeah.
supposed
I'm
to
pretty-
invoke that, right? I think
Yeah,
it's
I'm
supposed
pretty
to.
sure it's like the exact, he's saying the same stuff. It's like flashing
Is
to
it?
like racing.
Okay.
It's
I
like the
felt like
same
they were
thing.
doing something, but I didn't know what. So, okay. So he's pumping himself up, much like the first, I guess. It's a callback. This is the third of the trilogy, third and final for now. But he's also like, this one's for you, Doc. And for those who didn't listen to the other podcast or didn't watch the other Cars movie, Doc was his mentor who like brought him up and trained him, Doc Hudson. So he's like, this one's for you, Doc. We get a little Doc callback. There's a race happening, a bit of a racing montage, poppy music playing. We're seeing them all zooming around the track and stuff. And at the end of this, Jackson Storm zooms in for the win. Jackson Storms is a new character, new car. This movie's kind of a threat challenger, but he's not like a race car like Steve McQueen. He's a new model.
Lightning
He's a
McQueen?
younger
Wait, did you say
generation.
Steve
Yes, she did.
McQueen?
Which one?
Let's cut that.
No, we're keeping it in. Yeah, let's say
It stays.
Steve McQueen as well.
Lightning McQueen. I really do struggle with Lightning McQueen's name. I feel like it is a mouthful. Even when I was typing it, I was like, Lightning. Like, there's no short form. I can't. It's not like Doc Hudson where you could be like Doc or Hud. It's like
Lightning?
McQueen.
Yeah.
I can't shorten either of those words.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Well, you can shorten
forgive me.
Lightning to Steve.
I would. Can I just keep calling him Steve?
Please.
No, I won't.
Yeah.
But anyways, Lightning McQueen. Blah blah. Okay. So Storm, Jackson Storm wins.
Pretty cool name.
And Jackson's like, oh, kind of talking about Lightning McQueen at the beginning, like, I looked up to this guy for years. But then he's like kind of being douchey with all the other new gen sports cars. So there's a bunch of new rookies on the race now. Like, we're seeing a bunch of newer models, younger cars. And why is Jackson Storm so fast? Let me tell you, he is the next gen high tech, like upgrades. Like, he's just not built the same as McQueen. Like, these new models are training in different ways. They have like access to all this new tech. So they like basically know the courses, and like every twist and turn are like programmed to them. So it's like pretty much seems impossible that McQueen could even beat them. Like, he is just outdated. Like, cars, tech doesn't really last. It's not like you can just like without upgrades can just like do better. So
Can you not,
I was
he won so many races. Is there no way for him to just get new parts or something?
That's what I was wondering. And I feel like in the first car movie, we like kind of discussed the like existentialism of like, how many parts do you replace in
Yeah, I was
yourself
thinking
when you're
about
not the character anymore
for
or
sure,
whatever.
for sure.
And so as this movie was started, I was like, oh, I was like pretty interested immediately because I was like, where are they going to go with this? Because like, is he going to train to like be better than this car? Like, he can't be better than a new, like, if you have a Mac from 2014 and there's a new 2023 model, like, you can't make your Mac better than it, right?
Yeah,
it's just whatever. So I was like, how are they like, is Lightning McQueen gonna come out on top in this movie? Well, we'll find out.
I thought the whole thing was going to be that the new cars are all electric, and then
that's what I thought
McQueen's
too.
like the old like fuel. And as the movie went on, I was like, wait, is he gonna like change his engine to be electric now? Like, isn't that like weird as a car? And I don't know. I was asking myself a lot of questions.
Didn't the last movie kind of touch on electric cars? Isn't that like their thing?
That
It
was
was
the whole-
gas. It was like special gas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be like a comparison to virtual, so like sim racing. A lot of eventually sim racers started being trained to actually drive cars and were running races. So I think it's supposed to be about like people who learned how to drive cars virtually being moved into like the world of in-person racing,
And I was
rather
like,
than those who come up through like go-karting and
taking
stuff.
racing aside. That's a good point, Laura. But taking racing aside, I pictured it as like boomers versus Gen Z people, right? Like, boomers don't know how to like get scared of the new technology around them and will only do things a certain way. And these new Gen Z people would do the new flashy way of like things, right? your TikToks and stuff like that.
Well, I was kind of, and this may be getting into everything a little early, but like I feel like this movie to me felt more of an allegory for like athletes and for like new talent coming in and how hard it is to like say goodbye to something you love, kind of like Roy Kent or like you know, a story like that, which is where I feel like it was going, and it is. But again, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit.
We'll get there.
But,
I mean, even just like looking at stuff like the Olympics and how the training regimens have advanced over the years for stuff like that, and like so like somebody from 30 years ago does not train like somebody today,
and it's like you could still be a legend.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you're a legend in your own right, even if you did it different. Like you obviously get too old to be able to compete. Like that just is something that happens. It's like part of your trajectory. So there's a lot of like quips about this early in the movie, and I think they're slipped in pretty well. They're like, I mean, they're not subtle, but like everyone's kind of talking around McQueen about him. And it's just like, oh, I get to race the real Lightning McQueen in his farewell season. And all these like offside comments where he's like, wait, what? Like farewell season? Like, it's not my farewell season. And so people are like making comments all around him. And he's referred to at one point by one of the cars as an elder. Yeah. And so it's at that point, I think, when somebody referred to him as an elder, where it's like my light bulb went off, because I was like, oh, they opened the movie with him like talking about Doc. Like maybe this is going to be like about elders and like their, you know, proteges, young grasshoppers, etc. He finds out Cal Weathers is retiring, which I guess was another racer from one of the previous movies. A friend,
first one.
Yeah, I think he like goes on the TV. Yeah, it was he like the main. Anyways, so he finds out he's retiring, and he's like, "What? Like, how could you be retiring or whatever?" And then I think he asks him like, "How do you know when to stop?" And he says, "The youngsters will take it." And so there's all this like foreshadowing about like the young people coming in, and at the beginning it's just like a few of the racers, but like we kind of see that like soon enough, like Lightning McQueen's one of the only like non-young racers kind of left, because it's Piston Cup season. And so like that's where he's like seeing other cars that were like him being like, go, like they're not, the sponsors aren't racing them anymore. There's youngins everywhere. Like the scenery's changed. He feels, you could tell he's like out of place a bit, even though he's where he loves. And then so some of them again are saying kind of like some mean comments like, hey champ, where'd all your friends go? And then like, you had a good run, enjoy retirement. And I think those are more like things the cars are saying, like maybe as they pass him on the track too, because at this point he's like now in the Pistons Cup racing with all the young people. And it's at this part where we get to, which we've already alluded to on the poster, the insane crash, which like watching it I mean, it's one thing to be on a poster and kind of in a trailer, but I feel like watching it as the story, like I was already like getting pretty emotionally invested in like McQueen's story here. And then all of a sudden to watch him eat it like this, it's like, if this was a human, like this is the goriest scene. Like we're watching him get mutilated. Like he like does like a few flips. It's like pretty insane crash. And I'm just like, holy shit, like he's dying in front of us. He is
dying, but is it weird that I think that the crash fucks? It's pretty.
Dude, yo, that crash
it looks
fucking
sick.
Sick.
Props to the animators. Yeah.
It doesn't only look good, but I think
it looks so real.
Starts the movie in a way that makes us, people who don't care about cars, like actually kind of interested about what's gonna happen. So I was just like, holy shit, are you gonna go with this? Like what else could happen? Well, we're gonna about to see, but like at least this moment I was just like, wow, I think I'm in.
And I think it also touches on like something that they don't really go into more in the movie, but like I think part of the decision of a lot of athletes and particularly racers is as you get older and continue to stay within a sport, it becomes more and more dangerous. And so like when you're deciding whether you want to continue to pursue your passion or retire, it's also thinking about like, well, with every race I compete in or with every, you know, meet I go to, there's a greater chance of injury and like in this sport, death.
Yeah. And we do circle back to that a bit because Doc also had a big crash in his career and it kind of like ended his career. So yeah, it's a crazy moment. And it's true. I feel like at this point, right, even before the crash, I was kind of like really rooting for McQueen. And when the crash starts, I'm like, oh shit. Like it is it feels so visceral. Like, I don't know. It's like obviously a cartoon car, but it feels like you're watching.
Wow, we'll
like,
talk about, I'm sure,
like
animation
a
angle,
figure
but like,
skater falling or something.
sure,
Like,
yeah.
that kind of cringe. Like, oh my god, uh.
I think it sells
So-
it because the movie just like that. Those like the car stuff looks really good in this movie.
Yeah,
like...
it looks so good.
The speed that the
So-
car is moving at, like the way they capture the flips
Yeah.
and stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's kind of a shocker moment. You're kind of left like, holy shit. And then it cuts to 4 months later. So not dead. He's back in Radiator Springs. He's just kind of like in the garage watching old videos of Hudson Hornet, who is Doc Hudson, his mentor there. I like this shot as well. He's like watching all these old-timey races, and the footage he's watching actually looks
It
like
looks
shot old. It
So
looks
cool.
good.
Yes, I
Yeah.
loved this part. It looked amazing.
Yeah.
He
so
looked
he's
really
like,
cool with his gray primer paint as well, like the unpainted car look. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but then he's like rewatching Hudson's crash. And I have here, quote, like, your history, like, after a big crash is what they always, like, say. Like, that's, like, pretty much end of the line for you or whatever. So now Lightning, too, is kind of battered and beat up. And he doesn't want to be told it's over yet, though. Sally comes in to check on him. Sally being, for those who don't know or remember, his love interest car from the first one.
Barely.
Barely.
She had a lower back tattoo.
Yeah, they're once again doing some weird car flirting here, I guess. I don't know. She does tell him like not to fear failure and like nobody's stopped you yet. Nobody's told you can't keep going. Like just try and think of new ways to do it and this and that. Which like I don't know if this is the most solid advice. Like he's like pretty mangled, but like she's also like being supportive. Like he let him do what he wants. So McQueen's like, yeah, you're right. I am gonna not give up. So he's ready to start training again because, and this is kind of his like running thing for the movie now, where he's like, I decide when I'm done. Yeah. So he's going back in. And then like everybody in Radiator Springs is like supportive and excited for him. And they go on this like video call with the Rusty's bros, which were I guess his sponsors.
Yeah. You remember?
From before?
Yeah, I guess
from
this
the
first movie.
He wanted to win the Piston Cup so that Dynaco would sponsor him. But when he did, he decided to stick with Rusty's because they'd been with him through thick and thin.
Honestly,
That was the second one, I think.
oh, was it? I thought it
No,
was the first
No,
one.
it was the
Was it
first
the
one.
first?
Yeah.
Second one was Cars Are Spies.
Hey, do these Rusty's guys fuck? I think they kind of do.
No, they're brothers.
No, but not with each other.
Oh.
Yeah,
If they
sure.
want to do that,
Because for
that's-
a second, I thought maybe.
hey, that they fuck each other?
Yeah, and then they were like, let's go, brother.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I just think I don't even remember them as characters in the first movie, but here they seem like cool dudes. So
Yeah, I like barely remember them as characters in the first movie as well. Like I knew that they were the sponsor and like whatever, but I don't remember like seeing them much.
Oh yeah, they were his original sponsor in the
Yeah.
first movie.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all coming back now.
So anyways, they're on the call and they're like, yeah, come see us. We're going to go to this like elite training center. And he's like, okay, bye everybody.
The Rusty's
And,
Racing Center.
Yeah. So now we get like a classic traveling across the countryside to some country pop song thing.
Yo, these like the shots though looked so fucking good. These
They
were
do.
gorgeous looking. Half of them, or not even half, most of them looked real. Like, I was just like, this looks like real footage of a truck
I
driving.
think, and I have written that I feel like these kind of shots and this like this whole shtick, I feel like it's part of, and maybe this is why Cars 2 sucked, but it's like essential to the Cars brand in movies. Because in the first one, they really like hover on like when they're driving through the forest and it's really pretty. I feel like that was the only part that in that movie that I was like, this part fucks when they're like driving through the forest,
like on their
and
date.
like.
like on,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, on the date and just like all the establishing shots. And same with this. Yeah, these were like really pretty shots and like it's just really cool to see. And I'm like, yeah, this is like what
to their
like,
roots.
I guess these are like some of the like cool things that Cars does.
I feel like those shots are always Pixar flexing. They're just
Yeah.
like, fucking look what we can do, bitches.
Yeah, and it does look
swinging
really
their
cool.
dicks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So eventually, after all these beautiful shots, we get to the training facility. And there's lots of press there waiting for him, paparazzi, and like getting in his way. So again, we're just kind of like shoving more people in McQueen's face who think he should retire or think he's done or whatever, which like everyone seems to think except him. But he gets there and the Rusty's bros are like, we sold Rusty's, because they accepted it was time, because they were done and they knew it was time for them. And they decided. So they sold it to Sterling.
I also feel like this was like a jerk move on their part. They couldn't have like given him a heads up. Like McQueen shows up to this amazing place and they're like, oh yeah, like we've sold it and your new boss is right here. And then they peace out. Like they've been with him for all these years and they couldn't be like, hey, come on down. Like we sold, or I don't know. I feel like I was just like, this is weird. He's like their number one employee and they didn't give him a heads up.
Yeah, totally. They want to surprise him, but it's a weird surprise. But it's also a nice, I don't know.
They wanted to say bye in person, and it wasn't a malicious. It wasn't like nobody in this moment thinks this is a bad thing, right? They're like, we sold him, so now you get like the best training equipment. Like you couldn't have got this with us. So like it is all generally good. His new sponsor seems pretty cool. He kind of like comes down. He's all silver. He's voiced by Nathan Fillion.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
I love me Nathan Fillion. And he gets to come, like, he was just in Monsters University not that long ago, too.
Yeah.
So he's doing two Pixar movies. Cool.
Yeah. So anyways, he seems like an okay dude. Like he's got all this like Lightning McQueen merch and like kind of like museum set up in the front of this like area on walls, and it's like got all this history and like dirt and bottles, and like he seems like a real like genuine fan of racing and of McQueen. Which immediately I was like, wait, new sponsor, are we getting an outfit change? And we do. And it's like an electric suit. I don't know. They don't paint him. They put this like new...
It's like a spandex.
It's like vinyl shrink wrap or something.
Yeah, they put some stuff over him.
It looks cool when they do it.
But also, it's electric.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole like bit is where I feel like for me, it like clicked in the driving home of the like cars are athletes like allegory type thing, because in this center, especially with the trainers and all this stuff, I was like, yes, that is what we're doing here. Yeah, he gets there, he's like looking around, and Sterling's willing to like risk it. Basically, he's like, you feel like you still have race left in you, like I'm gonna back you up, let's do this. I'm gonna put one of my best trainers with you. And we meet this yellow car, Cruz Ramirez. She's the trainer. And I'm gonna wee-wee-oo.
Wee-wee-wee-wee.
I'm gonna wee-oo. I think Cruz fucks.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think the training equipment
Cruz.
Fucks. That's all.
My next note says racing simulator treadmills fuck.
100%. Those are cool.
Yeah, so the treadmills are all like built to like the individual cars and like can I don't know, train whatever your weakness is, whether it be rain or this or that, and the treadmills just kind of like, I don't know, can simulate anything, it seems like. So it's kind of cool. And so Cruz meets Lightning McQueen and is like, ooh, I like a challenge. Like, I'm going to call you my senior project. So again, we're getting all these people that are like, you're old. Gotta loosen those ancient joints, she says to him. One of the first things she does with him is like hang him upside down with a drip pan under him. She's like doing all these what feel like, proper to his age and like warming him up, but he is like, what? I just want to be on the simulator thing. They have this really big, like elaborate, like lock the car into this simulator, and there's this dome, and it feels like you're in an actual race thing. So that's all he wants to do, is he wants to use that because he thinks that's the key to like him being a good racer. Is like, I get to use the same tech that the young people do, and it's gonna make me like a better racer. So anyways, he doesn't want to do all this training, and there's kind of a joke about how he needs to take a nap. He's like, I'm not an old man, I don't need to take a nap. But then he takes a nap. And she's like I don't know, there's a weird bit where she's like getting him to name his new tires. He like doesn't want to. So then they're doing like a Zumba class. They're like dancing cars or whatever. Imagine a car doing Zumba. But he takes off to go for the simulator. She's like, there's no shortcuts, McQueen. But he's got to get on the simulator. But big surprise, he's not ready for it. He doesn't know how to work it. He doesn't know how to work himself on it. It's much harder than it would appear, and he has not been trained. So he crashes the simulator. It crashes into everyone in the stands in the simulator. He's just like taking out the crowd. And
I remember being like, as if they programmed it to do that.
Yeah.
Just drive through the audience.
Yeah. He's got to know the consequences. Somehow I don't exactly know what happens here, but he like gets free of the like simulator and crashes into the actual screen of the simulator and like breaks it or whatever.
And it takes out the entire power of the building.
Oh yeah.
No sense. It makes no sense.
All the power out.
I mean, that thing draws a lot of power. Look at the size of that screen, all the tech.
Is it like a thing where people have to keep driving it so it powers the
It
building?
actually is powering
it's like
the
a
building,
hamster
yeah.
wheel type of thing?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. So obviously not great. That's like their big piece of equipment that can't be a cheap fix. So we have to go see Sterling. He goes through these doors, and the doors are labeled A113. There's our
There it
A113 for the
Let's,
movie.
take that off my diginos there. Just
That one was like so in your face. Like it happened, and Brad was like, A113. Oh, I should save it. And I was like, it's
I like
right there,
blurted it
gold
out. I was like, oh my god, there it is.
I
Yeah.
missed it. I missed it.
No, did you really?
I did miss it. I did.
I
don't
feel
know.
like we looked at each other when it happened.
I looked at you for a different reason.
That was just 'cause you
probably.
love me.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
So McQueen hears talking, and he hears, "You're all washed up, McQueen." But what they were saying something about the floors being washed up. So now McQueen's like really in his own head about all this like being old and washed up stuff. So we get in, and there's products of McQueen all over Sterling's office, and he's like, "How can we use you to make more money?" And McQueen's all, "I didn't really think of myself as a brand. He's a racer, not a brand." But, you know, Sterling's clearly lost faith in him, but has him on his team now and is like, "How are we going to use you?" And he's like, "No." Sterling's trying to tell McQueen, like, "This is your legacy." But then McQueen, it's like, "That sounds like something that happens when you're done racing." He's still not done. So McQueen's trying to convince Sterling now, like, "I'm going to be the comeback story of the year. Like, I know you lost faith in me, but don't, like, I'm going to do this." And then there's just a back and forth between us. He's pretty harsh. Sterling's like, every time you lose, you damage yourself, which was like true. But he's talking not about physically. I think he's talking about his brand again. Like, you're just like,
He's a businessman.
So it's a little both. Yeah, it's a little bit of both. But for McQueen, the racing is the reward. So he doesn't want to cash in. And so he's begging him to let him go. And they make a deal. And he's like, "Listen, I'm going to be the comeback story of the year. And if I win, I decide when I'm done." That's his thing. And so he agrees. I feel like he still has faith in him and likes McQueen. So Cruz is sent out to train with McQueen some more. And so they go to the beach. And I think now we're kind of like training more McQueen's way. He's convinced them to like let them do it my way. I'm going to train up. I'm going to like go back to my basics. So they go to do some racing on the beach. And at this point now, Cruz is still like kind of tried like warming him up and doing her like trainery things. But these are kind of like exercises run by McQueen now. So he's kind of like teaching her things like how to drive in sand, and like she's learning.
Can I just say
So,
that
like,
she's a trainer. She should even, I know she doesn't train outside, but she's like a professionally paid trainer who has done a lot of training for all these other people, and yet she doesn't know the basics of driving in like dirt or sand. It seems
You don't
weird
race
to me.
on sand, Tom.
I know. I just
She
feel
can
like
drive on
should
dirt.
know
Sand's
these
different.
things.
Yeah.
It
I
took
feel like
him an entire movie
It's
to learn how to race on dirt.
I think it's also like meant to show how this new generation like doesn't have the
yeah.
practical skills. Like you can
For
do all this
sure.
fancy tech stuff.
That is definitely for sure. But in her position, she's probably getting paid a shit ton of money to train those other
True.
people. She should know things about training.
I think it is hard when they're all cars, so it fuzzies it. But I was thinking of it like if you have a personal trainer and you're like a golfer, like maybe your trainer is not a golfer. They don't have golfing skills, but they have the physical skills to train you. Like they're a physical trainer. Like they're like strictly there to build you muscle and stamina and this stuff. They are not there to teach you the sport. But it's hard to separate driving and the sport when they are all cars.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like,
totally.
so it's like a little harder to separate. So I also thought that I was like, shouldn't she be like better at all this stuff? But I don't know. I was
You
just like,
really
I'm
gotta
gonna-
let it slide for the
whatever.
rest of the movie for sure.
Yeah, you definitely have to let this one go because it becomes important later. So yeah, she's not doing as good as him on the beach. So she's timing him as well, and he's still clocking in slower than Jackson Storm. So they've got to work on that.
Yeah, that's the whole reason
then-
she has to drive, right? Is that she has like a Bluetooth, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, signal that has to be close enough to clock his speed. So she also has to be fast.
Yes. So now he's like, wants to go race on a dirt track or something. So they go to Thunder Hollow. And the whole thing is trying to avoid the press. They don't want them to know that they're going to be there. So they like come up with these aliases. And that's Chester Whifflefilter. I might have written that wrong.
Something like that.
Chester something like that. And they like cover themselves in mud.
Yeah.
Lightning
or
does,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's not noticeable.
Cruz doesn't
And then
need
we
a
get, like,
disguise.
Yeah, so they go to this place where there's like a dirt track and they think they're gonna like enter this race with all these people. It's like a convoy of a convoy. Yeah, there's like tires exploding, there's like Mad Maxy characters,
It's a
everyone's
demolition
like
derby.
hooting and hollering.
And
Yeah,
the track
but they
is
don't
an
know that.
8.
Yeah, that's true. They don't know that.
They don't know it's a demolition derby. They think they're going to race and they enter this. But yeah, as soon as it starts, they like lock the gates in. It's like battle cars and all these cars are like ready to fuck shit up.
Yes.
It's absolute chaos in the ring. There's a school bus, which I did look
Miss
up.
Fritter.
Miss Fritter, that's
Fritter.
it.
Yeah.
Miss Fritter.
Does Miss Fritter fuck?
Yeah.
Does she?
Yeah.
Does she?
Come on,
Okay.
did you see
I
those
think so.
horns?
I
We got
think
some
so.
nodding. We got
Yeah.
some
I
nodding.
like
Yeah.
I like her design.
I think she does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Owns
she does
that
too.
place.
Yeah.
That's
It's true. She's like taking it, yeah. So she's taking out Cruz, but McQueen swoops in. Like it's just like huge battle sequence. He's struggling to drive around in the mud, which I was like, this feels like Shadow in Homeward Bound, where you
Oh, no.
get out of the mud and it's all sad. He's like, yeah. Anyways, I guess Cruz ends up winning because McQueen like helps her and takes out the bus or whatever. But then there's still chaos happening even after the win. And when he's struggling in the mud, Cruz is like driving around and hits a tanker. And this big tank truck that's full of water gets hit and it falls over and all the water splashes onto McQueen and washes the mud off. So everybody can see that it's McQueen and everyone's like, and like it's a big deal. Like they're all fans. They mean well. They're just like, oh my God. So everyone's like kind of making a huge deal. So they like take off and go back into his truck.
Yeah, Mac.
Yeah, Mac. And they're leaving and McQueen is in a bad mood. You know, that wasn't what he wanted to go there to do. Cruz
Classic
won.
McQueen bad
Everyone,
mood.
yeah, he's like a very grumpy right now. And Cruz is like in a really good mood because she won this trophy and she's like really excited about it. And he's just like being a dick. So yeah, he starts like yelling at her, blaming her for not being a very good trainer. And he's like, you don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, you can't understand me. Like, he's just being a huge dick. Just like, you wouldn't even know, like, you're not a racer, this and that. And so she like, the truck stops and she gets out and she turns back and she's like, do you think I wanted to be a trainer? And like, this is where we get kind of her thing now, where she's like, I wanted to be a racer like you. It's like, oh, McQueen, she was a fan of yours all along and you're being a huge dick. But she was like, yeah, when I got my shot to race, I like figured out I don't belong. I guess she like got cold feet, didn't race, like just never pursued it again. She didn't really have the confidence. Other racers were bigger, stronger, more confident. And she asks a car like, why did you think you could do it or something? And McQueen's like, I don't know, I just never thought I couldn't do it. Which I was like, I feel like it's like a very like male, like
Privilege in a
confidence,
nutshell.
like, yeah, I was like, of course Cruz is like the female entering this field and everyone's like, I just never assumed I couldn't do it. And she's all like, oh, I'm like so like whatever. And I was like, Cruz, get it. Go. So anyways, at this point I'm invested and I'm like, all right, let's see what happens here. I think McQueen does feel bad that he was being a dick at this point. So at this point, I feel like I'm starting to be like, oh, okay, he's going to like teach her like Doc or whatever. And the probability of winning is very low. He's not like taking her on quite yet. He's just like letting her come back and is like, let's go race some more or whatever. So at this point, he brings her back to his Doc's. Oh, God. Okay. How?
Smokey?
To his old mentor's mentor.
Yeah.
But this is after a phone call with Mater.
I was just gonna say at first we called Mater, and
Yeah.
Mater's one like appearance in the movie.
Yeah.
So he's asking Mater what's going on back home.
It was
What were
so
you saying, Brent?
weird. This whole thing, this whole phone call was weird to me because he asks him how Sally's doing, and I was just like, when he left the town, they say they love each other. But then I was like, how long has it been since you've talked to Sally, and now you're calling Mater instead of her for this advice?
Because he doesn't have a
You
phone.
haven't said anything to her. You don't even know how she's doing. And I was like, what is happening?
Mater's his best friend, and Sally's just his lover. It's there's a hierarchy here.
Yeah. I with this point, I think McQueen says something like, I can't do this forever. And I just have written down, this must be what Pixar creatives felt like making another car movie. I just can't keep doing this forever. But I think on this call with Mater is where he realizes like everybody has a teacher. And then McQueen's like, oh, gotta go, and picks up Cruz and they leave. And
but here is like, with the Cruz pickup, he does accept her resignation. She's no longer his trainer at this moment, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
But he is still not training her. Don't be fooled.
Yeah.
He's like, you've quit and you can still come with me, but he's like, I'm still going to win this thing.
Oh,
like
yeah,
he's
sure.
still going to train himself. And to get her to come back, he like does this little dance and is like teasing her. And he's like, come on, let's go. Like, I don't know what he says, but he gets her to come back on the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Zumba dance. So he comes. Smokey is the name of Doc's old trainer. So now we're going back like even more generations. So, like the generation before,
his grand mentor.
So grand mentor. They come up. Grand mentor welcomes them in with open arms, offers them a drink. They go into like a bar. I don't know, in town.
That's the thing that confused me. It's a bar and grill, but what are they grilling? Like what?
I don't know.
I think it's meant to be like cars have grills.
Yeah, maybe.
So they just wanted to use the word grill.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want to know. Because like in this scene, we also see them using like microphones and playing guitars and instruments too. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can see someone flipping burgers, but they're not going to eat burgers. So what would they eat? I don't know.
Yeah. And then they're in this bar and it's like kind of like old and dingy, but there's like a table full of old legends. I think McQueen's kind of like starstruck by like a handful of them. He's like, oh my God, all these like old racers. There's like some like bar singers singing Glory Days, and some of the other like legend cars are like, oh, I used to have a thing with her. And one of them's like, so did I. And it was the girl car. So I feel like they're these gay cars. And I was like, yes, lesbian cars.
Oh, I missed that.
I missed that too.
You know, I could have been making it up, but I'm going to stick with it.
Sure. Yeah.
So I feel like she says something later too. And I was like, confirmed, but I don't remember what it was.
Get it, Louise.
We're going to say one of the legend cars is an old lesbian car.
Definitely.
So anyways, they start telling their story of when the rookies showed up. So this is like a thing that I think they're passing down information. Like this always happens. Like there's always going to be younger, new generation coming eventually. What happens to Doc will happen to you. Like it happens to us all. So everybody's kind of just like giving like therapy to McQueen. They're all just like telling him about like Doc's career and how it ended and how he like needs to kind of move on and stuff. I guess Doc moved away and didn't talk to Smokey for 50 years after his big crash or when he was done.
Did anyone else immediately go, how old are cars? I was like, what? Is this like a sea turtle situation? Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, this is an emotional moment, too, because McQueen's asking Smokey, like, what happened to Doc? Like, what happened after the big crash? How did he handle all this? And it's like, he must have been, like, upset. Like, he had to give up on this and stuff. And that's when they're like, yeah, he left. He didn't talk for 50 years. And then there's a pause. And then they're like, then the letters started coming in. And I was like, oh my God, I know where this is so cute. And so then it's revealed that, yes, he started writing again because he was coaching Lightning McQueen, and it made the Grump the happiest he ever was, even more so than when he was racing, which is cute.
It is
and he's
cute.
like, racing wasn't the best part of Doc's life. You were. Yeah, and it's like the whole part is like giving like they grow up so fast energy. It's like watching your kids grow up, you know. He's kind of like a father figure. And so he's like, you know, Doc saw something you don't even see in yourself. Are you ready to go find it? And they're gonna keep training. So now Smokey is training him. And he's like, you'll never be as fast as Storm, but you can be smarter than him. They go back to their like tractor tipping ways. They're like driving through a stampede of those.
But they don't tip anyone.
They don't tip
any. They don't tip any. It's like a stampede of them instead. So they're just training a bunch, doing some weird stuff.
Did they already tell the story about Doc where he does the flip over the other car?
That's probably at the bar, yeah, when they did that.
Yeah, I guess.
So they reminisce about that race.
Flip.
Yeah.
The flip. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the flip over the car.
Is that
So-
legal? Can you do that, Laura? Like, probably.
If you can land on your feet, why not?
Has
Yeah.
anyone
Yeah.
ever?
I mean,
done-
wheels.
Has anyone ever done that?
Absolutely not.
I don't know. So-
I feel like they
Why
did something
destroy a
in
car?
in that movie. What was it, Drive, with Sylvester Stallone? I feel like he hits a curb in an F1 car and like goes over another car, and it's like the big trailer moment.
Okay, this is the only way to get me into F1, Laura, is if that ever happens.
No, the cars are so close to the ground that it would just completely destroy the underside of the car. It wouldn't be able to
Real life
to go on.
sucks.
I know.
Continue, Sam.
Back to cartoon cars. We do get a quick cut.
Cartoon cars. Never mind.
No.
We do get a quick cutaway to Jackson Storm. I don't even, he's just basically like not scared, not worried about Lightning McQueen. Then we go back, they're doing now this seems super dangerous. Part of their training is lights off, driving through a forest
Yeah.
to train. Seems very dangerous and not super practical, but okay.
Yeah, that just
so
seems
they-
like, hey, like if we were just runners, for example, let's just run into a dark forest, no lights. Just,
It makes no sense.
it doesn't make any sense.
No
No
sense.
lights. What do you mean?
Okay, but I have
Yeah.
to say there are videos of F1 drivers in simulators driving blindfolded, and they stay on the racing line, and it's amazing.
Yeah, but
This is different. This is
Real
different.
life.
I just have to say.
Something Storm would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
and
sure.
so they're taking all this time training. Meanwhile, like I think the other racers are starting to arrive to the cup, and like it must be Laura probably knows they like show up for days before like tailgating and like hanging out and stuff. Because at first I was like,
you
oh my
gotta
god,
do
is he gonna be
media
super
day,
late?
Got to do practice.
Yeah,
qualifying.
like is he gonna be super late to this? Because they're all kind of teasing and they're like, oh, of course he'd be late. That like he's always late, and they're all being little bitches about it.
Can you
But
correct
anyways,
me if I'm wrong, Laura? Because it sounds like because he didn't show up for any of these days, he had to start in last place.
He missed
right?
qualifying.
Misqualifying. So you do qualifying to see where you start a race for
Yes.
the real. That's
Oh,
fucking
okay.
stupid.
That's why
No,
he's
it's
in
not.
back.
That's stupid.
It makes a lot of sense. The fastest person gets the front position.
They do single laps, and whoever does the fastest single lap gets to
Guess-
start the race in first.
He should just do Mario
Anyways.
Kart rules.
I know.
Yeah, so he misses that. So he's like really getting there at the very end and has to start in the last place. But he's late because he's having like a race back with Smokey, or like was training, and he's racing Cruz. And in this moment, Cruz beats him in his big like training time, which is like, yikes, you're about to go in the Piston Cup against all these youngins and you were just beat by not a racer. Not even a
Yikes.
racer.
She
And
just started racing like
You know
days
what
ago.
else? A girl non-racer.
A girl non-racer.
Subtext.
I don't think
Subtext.
Lightning McQueen cares about that.
He doesn't.
No,
I don't
he
think
doesn't.
he cares about that.
He doesn't. So anyways, they eventually make it to the race. They leave after that.
He was very sad. after
He
that.
was
Yeah, he was
yeah.
really sad.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
He's so sad.
I mean, he's about to lose his career. The only thing he's
Yeah.
ever cared about to sell mud flaps.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Oh yeah, I have written this. So he's like in the car and the truck. What's his name again? Mac.
Mac.
You hear him like the banging on the thing. Like, okay, it's time to get to the track. And I was like, how is he banging on the metal? Like, is he making his metal bang? Like,
It's John Ratzenberg.
What?
Yeah.
Burger, yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
it's
the
weird.
voice.
It's weird.
but
It
it's
is
like
weird.
the banging on the metal implies someone hitting it, but there's no humans. So it's like, what?
Is he like a kangaroo, like just storing people inside of him, and it's just completely okay? Like I don't.
Correct.
Yeah, very strange.
He doesn't have organs.
So, anyways, he gets up to the race. There's kids cheering in the crowd. McQueen seems pretty unsure about things. But I think Smokey's his guy in the pit now.
Yeah.
He's brought him on to be
Crew manager.
the crew manager. So he's like, go make HUD proud. And the race begins. Sterling is being a jerk to Cruz and is like, what are you doing down here? Like, you're a trainer. You should be back in the facility. And she has like some wings, I guess, drawn on her or something. And he's like, "You're not a racer. Why do you have all this stuff on you? Like, you should." I feel like Sterling really takes a turn to being an asshole all of a sudden. Like, he was kind of like okay before, and then it gets to this part of the movie, and I'm like, okay, now you're just like being a dick for like no real reason.
Yeah.
Like, you seemed okay before, and it's like, okay, well, we have to remind everyone he's a villain of sorts, but it's like you didn't really have to like do this.
I think like
So-
it happens really quickly, but you can see the beginning of when he was about to take McQueen off of the team or whatever, that like he has a lot of self-interest over
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, of course.
So this is just 2 leaps ahead.
Yeah.
Which without making those.
We just escalate really
Escalate
fast
really quickly,
here.
exactly.
Because he's like, Cruz is like our favorite trainer. Like he seems to like be like pretty buddy with her. So to be like being such a dick to her all of a sudden, I was like, all right, well, it's just like a race. Like, chill. But then McQueen is like, no, I need Cruz. You have to keep her because he like really wants her to be around for the race and he knows how much she like likes this. So I think they let her stay or whatever. But then as he's racing and not doing good, I don't really remember what the compelling moment where he realizes he needs to do this, but he's racing and he realizes he needs to tag in Cruz and not continue doing it himself because he is not going to win this. And you know what? It's someone else's moment. It's someone else's time. And so he like goes into the pit and tags in Cruz, which is like crazy, and gives her the number so that it's still like the same racer. So he goes out, she goes in, and she's starting to race. She's like doing okay.
I asked Laura if this was legal because I'm like, I love the intention, but like, surely you can't just do that, right? And Laura said, you can do that. So no,
I said,
you can't.
are we thinking of the cars as cars or as drivers? Either way, the answer is no.
Or people. Like if you're running like a long marathon, I guess around a track.
Well, you can in Le Mans, but not in regular NASCAR. And
Okay,
F1.
but I'm just thinking like if this was just a race with people on foot, surely you can't just sub out a tired driver for a fresh fresh
Take my bib.
Here,
Take my bib.
Take it. It's the same number. We get away with it.
You can in a relay.
Well, it's a nice moment. And
It
he's
is
like, you're a
nice,
racer.
yeah.
It just took me a while to see it. And everyone else is kind of like, much like you were just saying, like, can you do this? You're kidding me. What? He's putting in this, like, nobody in the race. And everyone's like, whoa. And so she's like doing okay, but like not quite getting it. And Smokey's still like what did you call that? A captain? Pit captain?
Oh, the crew manager.
Crew manager. So he's still the one like talking to her and giving her like feedback. But Smokey is pretty ancient at this point, let's be real. And he's not doing the best job directing her. And every time he tries to give her like a cue, she's like confused and doesn't know. And then McQueen will say something that's like an inside joke or like inside like quip for them, and she'll like do it right. So that happens like a few times, and then finally, this one I thought was funny. Tell her she's on a beach and all the little crabbies have gone night.
That is fun.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so, of course, at this point, Smokey's like, I do not know what you guys are saying. So he hands over the
headset,
microphone and the headset to McQueen. And now McQueen is coaching her, which is as it should be.
He's the cruise manager.
No.
No,
I think he's the race engineer.
Cool. Oh, I thought that was pretty good. Yeah. Thank you, Sam.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. So she's applying all the things she's now learned with McQueen. Ramirez is in third. She's like coming up. Storm, I think, is scared. And he's like in front of her. But then she uses the back flipping over the car move to get in front and over him for the win.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where'd she get that from? Doc
Doc
Hudson.
Hudson.
Yeah.
And when she comes out of the pit after the big win, Sterling's like, Cruz! And then she quits. You know, he only wants her when she like won. He was being a dick like 2 minutes ago. I think Team Dynaco offers to sign her.
They sure
so
do.
That's like a big moment for her. And it's like that was Lightning's dream in the first one, you know? So like now she's getting to do it. But in the end, because, and this is where it's like, this is super not how this would work. In the end, because they both raced and he started the race and she finished it, they are both winners.
Amazing.
So, because of that, we still get McQueen being able to choose when he's done with Sterling, because technically
he started the
won.
race. She just
He started
finished
the
it.
race.
Yeah, he gets half the credit.
Yeah. And so, anyways, Lightning McQueen is very proud. And he's like, kid's got a lot of stuff, eh, Doc? So it's very cute. He's like having his moment. And so he brings Cruz back to Radiator Springs and gives her HUD's old number, which is very sweet as well. And then, crazy, Lightning McQueen gets a new paint job and is blue now. What?
Blue like
For
Doc.
Blue like Doc?
The fabulous
Was Doc not-
Steve McQueen.
Was Doc not? Yeah. I thought it was like purplish,
Like a
purplish blue.
midnight
I don't know.
blue.
It's like a great
Like
purple.
a
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
purpley blue.
Sure.
I think you
don't-
also skipped over the part where the Dynaco guy buys Rusty's from
Oh, yeah.
Nathan Fillion.
Oh no, I was
So-
just getting to that note.
Oh, sorry,
Tex
sorry.
bought the problem away.
Yes,
He
yes.
just buys. Yeah,
Yeah.
he does buy Sterling's
Sterling,
trading
yeah.
facility. So
I will say this moment bothers me only because it's just like, hey, how about we just talk, Sterling? You and I, billionaire to billionaire. And then in the end, it's just like, well, one billionaire solved the problem. There's good Isn't there some good billionaires out there? I'm like, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know if that was like necessary, but it happened. So then there's just kind of more training and a pop song and credits roll, and there's a photo montage in the credits of Cruise and McQueen training. And I just have my last comment is, he looks weird blue.
Yeah. And there's a Mater post credit, which is barely anything.
Oh yeah, it's nothing. And
Yeah. It's Mater.
Yeah.
Who cares?
it's
yeah.
Mater.
Wah,
No,
wah.
yeah.
Woo.
So that's Cars 3.
Thanks, Sammy. I feel like I'm there all over again. And actually, if we're getting into feelings about the movie, I will say I'd watch this one again. I said it.
I would also watch
I'd
this.
watch it again. And I mean, knowing Disney, there's probably going to be a Cars 4. And I wouldn't mind if it was about our new friend Cruz. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Well, we know that there are 6 Disney movies in the work. Oh, no, wait, this is Pixar.
This is Pixar.
Yeah. We don't know what's up next for Pixar. We'll see. Tongue, what were your thoughts and feelings after watching the movie?
I will say I want to comment on Sam and Laura's feelings for a second, where Laura started the episode in the way that it seemed like she hated this movie off the get-go. And even last night she was like, oh man, it's like fell asleep in the last little bit of the movie. And then Sam,
I didn't.
And Sam, as you're talking, like you can usually tell whoever's doing the summary how excited they are about the movie a little bit. And I was like, oh, Sam actually likes this movie. Brad, I can't tell. Not sure. Okay, so for myself, I would say I can see how it's easily the best of the Cars movies. That's no question. There's just more going on and character development and like stakes that matter and not a lot of just like fucking whatever Mater type of poop joke type of stuff that they crammed in the last 2 movies. So I felt like it was nice that they tried to put story first in a way. Like it's still Cars. Like there's still some of those Cars things that I don't really care about, you know? Like I was kind of like zoned out of the demolition derby a little bit. But overall, I think the lesson they're trying to tell is one that's a bit more interesting than what they were even like before. It was just like the most boilerplate like lesson you could possibly imagine for a movie, and this one felt like, oh, there's a few more layers that are like make this like
It's
feel
a
like a
little
Pixar
more
movie.
universally
Yeah.
relatable. It's like even if you're not a car, it's like, you know, like you can maybe relate to the story. And even if you're not an athlete, even it's just like growing old and having to eventually like stop doing some things you like sometimes, you know.
Totally.
For a movie
I
about
think it's
Cars,
just-
it was very human.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great review.
Yeah.
I'll say the last thing is that I thought it looked beautiful, which goes a long way with why I thought it was a much better movie. Like the other Cars movies we've talked about before were benchmarks in animation and, you know, just the look and feel. They always looked good, but it never looked this good. Like the dirt, the mud, the driving, the cameras, like it all felt like when they were racing, it felt like they were racing, and that was exciting. So I think adding that to this like more human story, like you said, Laura, made this movie more interesting. I would say like it's still not like my favorite franchise or whatever. Like I'm not like a huge Cars fan now. Would I watch another one? I'd say we'll see if people like it, like they like this one. Like public opinion says Cars 4 is good, then I'll check it out. But I'm not like dying to see another one of these. I would put it probably on the same level as like our last few movies, like A Good Dinosaur, for example, where it's just like, this is surprisingly good but it's not one that I need to revisit like all the time, you know?
I agree. I think it's when I say I'd watch it again, I don't mean I'm gonna like throw it on over some of the other better ones. But if I'm like maybe babysitting my friend's kids or something and they like cars, I'd be like, we can watch this one. Like, you know. I thought it was
kids love Mater.
It's so weird.
And he's not really in this one.
No. Yeah. I don't
Brad, solve the mystery for us. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I feel like it's the same sentiment that Tongue has. It's good. I mean, less Mater is always good. I liked the story. The visuals were gorgeous. Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of a similar vein to Good Dinosaur and a few of the other recent ones, like Tongue said, where I will look back fondly on this one. And I do feel like, much like with Good Dinosaur, I hadn't seen it in quite a few years. And when it was coming up, I was pretty excited to see it again because I remembered enjoying it. And I could see the same feeling happening with this movie like years from now, where if somebody hasn't seen Cars 3, then it's like, oh, that's pretty good, actually. We should watch it. And you throw it on. But yeah, I'm not going to like seek it out. But yeah, it's definitely the best of the three.
It wasn't hard for it to be like going into it. I was like, this has got to be the best of the three. Like the movie didn't even start yet, and I was already like, this is probably my favorite one.
It's because I think it's also because that they put the racing as like a integral part of the story, where like even though he's a race car in the first and second movie and there is racing going on, the first one's like a love story, the second one's a spy movie. So it's like the racing is just so secondary, tertiary to what's happening, and this one it's like, okay, we're feeling this, he is speed, I am speed, like we're actually seeing that, and like you're like, okay, now I understand a little bit more about Lightning now.
Yeah, it's really about like legacy and purpose and coming to terms with like moving on in life. And one thing that I really appreciated about this movie was how deeply, as an audience member, I felt McQueen's inner conflict. Like the idea of wanting to keep racing versus recognizing, like being willing to step away from an amazing career, but also being like wanting that trophy for himself versus wanting to help somebody else like Cruz get it for themselves. And as we were getting later in the movie, and you sort of know what's coming, and like him moving into this mentorship role, I think it's pretty well mapped out. I was like, I really don't know what I want for him. Like in the same way that I think Lightning McQueen as a character is having that inner dilemma. So I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting feelings onto cars that don't exist. But I appreciated that. And I will also say that this movie, I think, made me like the first movie better, because I think it sort of enhanced some of the like themes and feelings from the first movie that were so absent in the second one, which is one of the many reasons why we dislike the second one so much.
Well, I also think like they make Doc in this movie much more important to the story.
Yeah.
And you actually feel like he is a legend. They talk about how he's a legend in the first movie, but you're so distracted by how just a little shit Lightning McQueen is in the first movie. And like by the time you get to this legend who's a curmudgeon in the first movie, you're like, two like pretty negative people or beings are in this movie, and I just did not care about Doc at all in this first movie. But here,
and then they kill him off immediately in the second.
Yeah,
and
well,
they
because
just
the
like
voice
show
actor
a
died.
headline.
But yeah,
I know, but like you kind of like, I was like, oh yeah, like he wasn't really important. And then when they open with like they're talking about Doc again, I remember turning to Brad. I was like, how did he die again? And Brad was like, I think he died off screen. And I was like, oh yeah. And I was like,
died of old age, I'm pretty sure, or something.
Yeah, but can they die of old age? Like
Cars
the
can
other
break
ones
down.
are there, I guess.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I was just like, oh yeah, I didn't really think that Doc was going to be important even here, but then it became clear like pretty quick in the movie that they're like, oh, we're rolling with this whole Doc like
totally and I think it's better for it because of that.
Oh, for sure.
I thought it was a nice I liked the story. I thought it was a nice resolution for Lightning, where he's just like fighting his age the whole time and then realizes that he could help usher in like
you know, it's a really good end to a trilogy, much like Toy Story 3 was. Maybe they should end it at 3.
Wow, we'll get to that.
So we'll see you next week for
I'll
Toy
save it,
Story
I'll save it.
Just kidding.
I was also going to say, Tong, you said you wouldn't be interested in seeing the fourth unless it's good, but if we're still doing this podcast, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
of
don't have a
course,
choice.
Of course, I know that. I know that.
Sorry. Okay, so now that we all know how we feel about this movie,
I'll just say also to Brad's point, we're going to be doing this podcast until all of us are dead.
And we're gonna be like, should we
Dead
pass
or
this
Tarzan?
down to younger people?
Exactly.
Should we let
Do we
someone
pass
else
this down?
take the mantle?
Exactly.
So wait, when only one of us is left.
That whoever's left has to keep going.
Can you imagine the final Disney Dummies / Pixar Pals episode where someone comes on the mic and goes, "Hi everyone, I'm Laura."
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. And this is Disney Dummy.
Okay, let's talk about who fucks.
Oh, what a blast from the future. Well, until that day, we'll keep on chatting together as a team. And next we're going to chat about some Pixar particulars with Tongue.
Okay, I can't wait to share these Pixar particular.
Oh, I forgot to do source material.
Damn it!
Wait.
You
Yeah.
ruined my Pixar.
Oh, you can do it
cars.
again. That wasn't bad. You can do it again.
I think
in
we
just a
made that
second.
joke in the last two Cars movie. Now that I
So, quick shout out to the writers. So, this is an original story that was written by Brian Fee, who is also the director. It was his directorial debut, along with Ben Queen and the writing team of A.L. Podell and Jonathan E. Stewart. So, that was the story team. And then the screenplay was written by Keil Murray, Bob Peterson, and Mike Rich. So it was an original story, but they kind of something that we picked up on as we were chatting was the fact that they were inspired by athletes, and specifically kind of after studying athletes who were sort of later in their careers, they were specifically looking at like NASCAR drivers, and wanted to tell kind of this human story of reflecting on a career and all that sort of stuff. So
I think it's really telling that the Better Cars movie didn't come from a story that John Lasseter like created. You know, like I know he executive produced it and was involved in some level, but wasn't his story, and it was the best one.
yeah,
So
it was.
yeah,
Okay,
Also,
Tongue.
another Pixar movie about jobs.
yeah.
Yes,
I was thinking that the whole movie's about career again.
so true. Tongue, why don't you give us your particular cars?
Thanks, Laura. All right. Okay. So when Cruz Ramirez is training like the Spanish driver, the scene that was playing and the music is from Coco,
Oh, that's cute.
which I think is cute because we haven't seen that movie yet, but we're going
Yeah,
to.
there.
Mama Coco.
Yeah. Here's one that's a little long. I'm trying to condense it, but essentially, no, I'm going to condense it. John Lasseter spent a lot of time in the recording booth with Paul Newman, who voiced Doc Hudson. And their entire conversation all of their conversations were recorded. And with Paul Newman, he apparently was like really, 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 really into racing. And that was like, he was talking about like a very similar thing in this, where it's like being mentored in racing and like cars is like his true life's passion, all these things. So when he passed away, they had all these recordings of Paul Newman, and they were able to retrofit it into this movie, which I thought was kind of cool to still bring Doc Hudson's, like, because I was like, are all these lines just from Cars 1? And there's a few that aren't. So yeah.
I did notice that. Yeah. I think when he was like balancing stuff on his hood or something and he says a bunch of words, I was like, I don't feel like that was from Cars 1.
That specific one is from the Cars video game.
Oh.
Yeah, but Paul Newman voiced that, so they're like, take that. It's a clean
Well, there
read.
you go.
It's a clean read. Get it? There's a lot of Apple sounds in this movie. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but apparently there's a sound, like a boot up sound that's not just the one that we hear on a Mac, but that same boot up sound is from WALL-E as well. And I think we talked about that in WALL-E, where they use like Apple stuff and Apple sounds. Let's see. Let's talk about the sign at Thunder Hollow reads Insuricare, which is Bob Parr's insurance company in The Incredibles.
Insuricare?
Insuricare. Sorry. Oh boy, it's a long
You got
day.
there.
Yeah, you did. Fillmore's license plate is 51237. It's the original birth date of George Carlin, the original voice of Fillmore, which I did not know George Carlin was in Cars, or at least I forgot about
Which
that.
one's Fillmore?
I don't remember. He's probably one of those Radiator Springs guys, right? Probably.
Probably.
It's a Volkswagen.
From Radiator.
That's all I got for
Sure,
you.
sure. We already talked about the A113. Let's talk about the Luxo ball. Did anyone see it?
No.
No.
It was found on the hood of one of the Crazy 8 cars in the Demolition Derby. And the Pizza Planet truck appears during the Figure 8 demolition race as well. So,
Oh, no way.
Yeah, figured.
yeah. I have a few Pixar particulars that I think would be better for animation angles. So I'm going to save a few from that. Let me just see if I have any more before we move on. No, that's it. I have like 3 that are specifically animation focused. So
Very good. Animation
Maybe
angle?
Brad has those 3.
Probably not. I don't really have like a ton of stuff for this one. I know when I was reading a little bit about the technology and like the leaps that they made for this one, as they do for every movie, the 2 big things kind of stood out to me. One was mud. I read a lot about mud and how difficult that is, which it got me thinking. I was like, they've definitely had mud in previous Pixar movies, but I'm pretty sure the mud was always like a footprint or like caked on a character. It was not like the Demolition Derby where the mud is like getting kicked up and it's spraying everywhere. And it was just like a lot of mud physics. And apparently that was quite an endeavor to figure out because it's not a solid, it's not a liquid, it's kind of like in between. So that was like a big thing. And another one that I thought was interesting, which is definitely more on the animation side of things, is I guess before this, if you've ever seen like unrendered models that animators work with, they're usually like all grayscale and like harsh lighting so that they can kind of see what the shapes are and stuff. But I guess at this point, they developed technology far enough that they could have what they called hardware shading, which had like simplified textures on the characters for the animators, where the animators could turn it on. So for instance, they could see like how fast a wheel is spinning more easily, whereas before they'd have to like draw a circle on the wheel so they could see it spinning, and little things like that really helped out the animators. Oh, and I've misplaced the quote, but I found some quote where they were talking about how they wanted the foliage to be even better than Good Dinosaur, which I was like, oh, that's a high bar to hit. But as I mentioned early on in the summary, the driving shots with Mac where we see all of that, and I did notice that all the environments were really, really like detailed and really well handled. So I feel like they really pulled that off. It did make me think of Good Dinosaur when I was watching it, with how nice all the environments looked. So yeah, good job. Thumbs up for that. But yeah, that's all I got for animation angle. I don't know, Sam, if you have anything. Otherwise, Tongue, get to you.
Yeah, I got some stuff here. Speaking of Good Dinosaur, they were talking about the clouds, like the cloud technology and stuff like that. 85% of the clouds in Cars 3 came from the cloud library from the Good Dinosaur. So there you go.
Cloud
Volumetric
library.
clouds.
The cloud library.
Reuse.
Yeah, that's it.
Reuse.
This one should have been in the particular Cars, but anyways, the artist created more than 80,000 storyboards during the production of the movie. Just 10,102 made it into the final sequences, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And the other animation thing is, which I didn't really notice looking at her, but Cruz Ramirez has a lot of rigging going on with her thing. So in order to give her a dynamic range of motion and expression, character riggers gave Cruz a total of 656 controls, including 360 for her body and 296 for her face. The mouth, lips, teeth, and tongue have 216 controls alone. That sounds like a lot, Sam and Brad.
That's so much.
That's a lot.
I work in Two Boom Harmony, which is kind of like puppeteering in a way, like simplified puppets. And I tried dipping my toes into 3D every once in a while, and I just get so bogged down by all the possibilities and all the controls and all the fine details you can do. It's very
So many
intense.
pieces to move. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
I remember
It's
us
so
us
many.
talking about like the number of points in a face of one character at some point many episodes ago. And I don't think it was that many.
No, I think it's only gone up since.
Yeah, I think that was the Toy Story 1 to 2 jump where I was talking about how much more complex it was.
Yeah, I think so.
But and then one other thing, I did remember a last point, which goes hand in hand with all the other render technology stuff, but was just like the car paint jobs, like the textures and the shininess of stuff. I definitely noticed when Lightning McQueen got his new outfit, the vine or whatever it's called, where it's
Whatever
like
that
plastic
thing is.
wrapped him,
Yeah.
and it was like so shiny. Especially in the corners of his mouth, and yeah, cutting back and forth to other cars. It was pretty crazy how different all the cars looked for that stuff.
Shiny Cheeks McQueen.
That technology still doesn't make much sense to
Don't
me
worry-
because it
don't worry
like
about
also it comes off of him when he's in his training montage, right? Like, how did that happen?
Isn't it when he's racing in the woods?
Yeah,
And it gets ripped
The
off
leaves.
from all the trees and stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels like that's not supposed to.
it wasn't
happen.
built to interact with nature.
Oh,
It
that's-
was built for the simulation space.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I have one other diginote to share. I couldn't find evidence of this on the internet, but I am convinced this is true, and you can't tell me otherwise. The Rust Ease Racing Center is based on the McLaren Technology Center. Google image it. It's a curved building located on a lake. They totally stole it.
I believe you.
And I'll leave it at that. All right, so it's time to get into our next segment, which is 5-star, 1-star. I will start off with, I think I have 2 5 stars and a 1 star. Yeah, I'll start off with this 5-star. Well, here's what you've been waiting for. Oh, this is from Rylan E. Dixon. Well, here's what you've been waiting for. I'm finally reviewing my favorite Cars film out of the 3. Let's dive in. I'd like to mention that this is written in every word is capitalized. Like not all of the letters, but the first letter of every word is capitalized.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
This is honestly the best Cars film of all. I really like how this threequel involves training. How could you drive and race without training? I also like the new characters. Jackson Storm is the best villain from the movie series.
No, he's not. He's barely a character.
I also like how this movie made cameo for both Cars and Cars 2. Before anyone asks how Cars 2 had its cameo in this, let me explain. The few things I remember is I saw Sterling had a picture of the main villain, Axelrod, and Jeff Gorvette appeared in the 500 Florida race. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything else, how even Cars 2 made its cameo. Anyways, back to the review. The original characters were just the same from the last 2 movies. The new characters were not the best, just decent. I like the whole storyline, except the ending. This type of animated threequel is just amazing. I feel like this Pixar franchise is the most underrated and lowest grades ever. I just feel like most people give these movies, especially Cars 2, bad reviews and grades. This is a good Cars movie. In fact, the best Cars movie out of the 3 IMO. Rating, amazing movie, 100 out of 100. Thank you, Rylan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a strong score.
100 out of 100. My
Sounding
God.
5 stars. That's more. Well, I guess that is 5 stars.
And then from Mustafa Alalu, a little shorter, this is just incredible. I loved the racing center scene and Cruise and McQueen on the beach. When I saw Hamilton, I didn't know it was Lewis Hamilton, but it is. Hopefully we see a Cars 4, which has many F1 drivers like Jenson Button, voiced by himself, and Max Revstappen, voiced by Verstappen, and Kevin Magwheels on, voiced by Magnussen. I hope they also make a Cars 5 as well, which hopefully will have F1 racers as well, like Roy Nissany or Charles Leclerc or something like that.
Is this written by you?
But for the
Yeah, was this
meantime,
written by you?
I will always enjoy this movie. 7 people found this helpful.
Wow.
Those are our 5 stars.
How come you can't just put all of those in Cars 4? Why do you have to separate them? These ones in Cars 4,
it's
these
different.
ones in Cars 5.
You got to
Different.
ease into it.
Yeah, that's right.
Michael McCusker says, all caps, killed my uncle. My cousins love watching the Cars movies, and they wanted their dad, my Uncle Ricky, to drive around town going 140 so they could feel like Lightning McQueen. Well, Uncle Ricky's dumb as a rock, so he agreed because he always wanted to be a NASCAR! Many exclamation points. Well, the only that was speed that day was his body flying through the windshield so fast it could give Usain Bolt a run for his money. The kids were seatbelted in and didn't even realize what happened until Uncle Ricky didn't respond to them saying, again. Then the tow truck came by and they were like, Mater, Mater. Turns out that the cable holding that car wasn't strong enough and it snapped while picking the car up. The car hit the ground front first and fell over. There goes Peter, Sharon, and Jonathan. Now our family is trying to sue the towing company, and Aunt Barbara has to explain to the kids why Uncle Ricky won't be able to play hide and seek anymore. 1 star.
This is
Many
wild.
exclamations.
This is wild. Obviously a fake story, but who wrote this? Like, why did you write this?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's rough. Rough stuff.
Insane.
And that's 5 star, 1 star, my friends. And that brings us to our final segment of the evening. Hot takes. Hot takes. Hot takes. Hot takes. Brought to you by Jackson Storm.
Really? Brought to you by like
Rookie
McQueen's
Superstar?
crash? Did you get set on fire in that crash?
I don't think so. Is anything
What
on
was
this movie?
what was the Derby
Oh.
race place called?
Oh, Thunder
like-
Hollow.
Miss Fritter,
Yeah.
doesn't she have some fire
Brought
things
to you
going
by
on too?
Thunder Hollow Pyro
Or
Effects.
Thunder Hollow did for
Thunder
sure.
Hollow,
All the
okay.
Yeah.
explosions.
Thunder Hollow.
Thunder Hollow. I like it.
Yeah.
Excellent. My first hot take, like Paul Newman, my main passions in life are car racing and salad dressing. Tongue, over to you.
Sure. Cars 3? More like Cars 2? Because this is like, isn't this like, doesn't this feel like the real sequel to Cars 1? Like, Cars 2 did not need to exist at all.
Yeah.
It feels like a spin-off.
this should
Cars
have been
2.
this
Yeah.
should have actually been
Yeah.
Cars 2. That's
Yeah.
full stop.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
that's my hot take. This should have been Cars 2.
Good point.
It's funny you said that, Tom, because I went back to look at my Cars 2 notes, and the number one hot take was, did this movie need to exist for Cars 2?
Well, there you go.
And there you go.
There you go. Like,
Didn't.
legit, this feels like the real sequel. So, anyways.
Sam, what do you got?
I don't really have much this week, but I feel like if they made this movie now, Cruz would be voiced by Aquafina, because I feel like Disney puts her in everything.
Yeah.
Tongue said that during the movie.
I said that during the movie.
Yeah.
It's part of my hot takes right now. It
That's
is
so
an
funny.
Aquafina character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
the
is.
character.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to explain. Maybe you can explain it better. But I'm just like looking at this character. I'm just like, everything could just feels like something Aquafina would do or say.
It's because she always ends up playing this kind of like young, naive,
Yeah.
like means well character.
Kind
I
of
don't
to prove
know.
clumsy,
herself.
a little clumsy. But
Yeah.
yeah. Great hot take.
Great
Sam.
minds, you
Yeah.
two.
Great hot take. I love
Great
it.
minds. Brad, you got anything?
No.
All right. Well,
Sorry.
that's okay. Just do better next week.
I'll try.
My next one, for a movie that's all about training, I'm surprised there weren't any trains.
There's like way less like living objects this time around. You know, did you notice that? Like in the second movie, they gave us, I forget, like boats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this one, it's like there was no new.
They just did way
Vehicle.
too much in
Yeah.
the second movie. Way too much.
They took a step back and it worked.
Yeah, they didn't have the queen in this one.
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started.
The queen should hot take. Queen should have knighted Cruz at the end of the movie.
No.
No, okay. I'm gonna rapid fire a few.
Go for it.
How can Lightning McQueen be a racer and the chief crew manager?
The race engineer.
How's can you
Crew
do that?
chief.
You know what I mean? Like he's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna still race, and I'm also gonna be your coach.
Yeah.
That feels like lots of conflict of interest type of stuff.
Cars
going
can
on.
flip over in there in this movie. Don't worry about it.
Okay, cool. Just seems like he should just commit to one of them. Anyways, here's a hot take. Cars 3 should have gone darker. They should have killed McQueen at the crash.
Wow. They already killed Doc.
I know. I kind of joke, but also like this movie seemed to have pitched a much darker, gritty version of like, you know, in the posters and the teaser trailer and everything. I felt as though, and in that moment, I really felt as though they were leading us to something darker. Like, you know how Frozen 2 tries to toe that line where it's like really, really dark
Yeah.
and then happy? I thought that's what they were going to do here. But it's like, dark moment happened, get away from it kind of thing. So, yeah.
I mean, they do establish the idea of death by killing off Doc Hudson, don't they? Like, we know that that's a risk because of him. Sam, anything else?
Nope.
You too good? My last one, I would rewatch any of the Cars films over the movie Ferrari.
Oh, that is a hot take.
Oh no.
Wow.
Laura really hated that movie.
I-
That's crazy. Over Cars 2, you'd watch
I
over Ferrari?
disliked that movie so much that every movie I've watched since then has felt like the greatest movie I've ever seen.
God.
It's been incredible.
I have to.
It's like a new lease on life.
Laura was so excited to see Ferrari. She basically was like, when are we going to see it? When are we going to see it?
Tried to get Tongue to do a double feature on Christmas Day.
Exactly. She's like, okay, well, I'm like, I can see it on Saturday. She's like, I'm going to see it tonight. And I'm like, okay, you fucking go. I don't care. I don't care. And then she comes home and she's like, you made the right decision, which is nuts because it's Ferrari. What are we like?
It was so bad, guys.
That's insane.
That's the Michael Mann movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not disappointing.
I was actively trying to fall asleep. And at one point I had to leave the theater because I thought I was going to be sick.
I guess Cars 2 is very quick, so it kind of puts you out of your misery.
You know what's not quick? Ferrari. Jeez, I'm sorry, Charles.
How ironic.
Carlos.
Right?
I'm not talking about you guys.
You shouldn't have saved me for the last hot take, but I'm going to say it anyways.
I can add one if you want.
Yeah, this is pretty... we'll see how this lands. Lightning McQueen being a completely different color at the end of the movie kind of feels like blackface.
I don't think it does.
And also, it's either that or wearing the skin of someone you love. Because he just basically puts on the same color and the same slogan, the fantastic, the fantabulous.
I think it's more
Lightning
like
McQueen.
Dyeing your hair.
It's his
Yeah,
whole
look
body.
at it more like clothing.
Yeah, like getting a new getting a new personal style.
I don't know.
It doesn't look like him anymore, though. It looks.
It doesn't
like
look like him. No.
Car.
Yeah. Kind of my point.
It's
kind of my point.
It's weird.
It's weird. And if Lightning McQueen is that color in the next movie, come on, that's ridiculous. He's a red car. That's it.
He's red.
Yeah.
He's a red car.
I think they would put him back to red.
He has to.
They would.
They would have to.
Yeah, it could be like one tribute season, and then he goes back to red.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Those are our hot takes, and this has been Cars 3, the final Cars movie? Question?
Yeah, we'll
Question
see.
mark?
We'll see.
If you told me back in when did Cars 1 come out?
2004?
2006.
Oh.
If you told me in 2006 there'd be another 2 car movies, I would
Cars.
have said I don't believe you.
There's been many car movies, but only 2 Cars
movies.
movies.
Yes.
There we go.
It was a good
Because
one though. Recommend if
Yeah.
you haven't seen it. It was actually pretty good.
I would get my child friends to watch this with me. I'd watch it again.
They'd be lost because they'd be like, well, let me see where Doc Hudson came from.
Oh, they're fine.
Where's Mater? More
they'll
Mater.
figure it
Actually,
out.
here is a hot take that's kind of a hot take, but more of a comment of, I'm curious what you all have to say about this, but don't you feel as though every Cars movie isn't about Lightning McQueen? like even this one is kind of about him, more about him than any other movie. But like in the first movie, yeah, it's about him, but it's also about Sally. In the second movie, it's definitely not about Lightning. It's about the girl car and Mater. And in this one, it's not really about Lightning. It's also about the girl car.
You're right.
Is that kind of weird?
This movie it feels about Lightning, though. It's him coming to terms
Yeah,
with
this one feels
his
like Lightning.
aging.
No.
Yeah,
It's more equal.
it's his movie.
I think you're right, Tongue. There's too much women representation in film.
I was going to say that typically in the Cars movie, they have written the women characters terribly. that is
Ridden?
Yeah, I mean, they wrote, you know what I mean, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. But like, usually there's like the one girl character in every Cars movie. And in this one, it's kind of the same. Like they have like the one kind of different. I mean, I feel like.
Although I feel like they added in Natalie Certain so they can be like, no,
Yeah,
there's 2 new ones.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and she was absolutely crucial to the plot, seeing as we did not bring her up until right now. Natalie Certain, everyone.
Oh, there's 3
I mean,
female
Sally
Cars.
makes appearances.
Yeah.
Sally, yeah.
It's fine.
Miss Frizzle? I say one Miss Frizzle, but it's Miss Fritter.
Miss Fritter.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they named her that.
Maybe. Yeah. Anyways.
You know what?
What?
I forgot to look up what movie's next. Is it?
Mama Coco?
Oh, lovely. All right. Well, next week our next episode, we're flying south down to Mexico and Dia de los Muertos. Am I close?
I can't
think
remember.
The Day of the Dead.
Mhm.
And we're going to see some family celebrations. meet some new characters and hear
Shed
some
some
new
tears.
songs.
I know
Maybe
we
shed a
haven't
tear or two.
said this in a while, and it's very arguable.
Ooh.
But just floating in.
Is this a hot take?
I'm just gonna float it in. It's been a long
Interesting.
time, and I know we don't talk about this too often. But I like to tease it out. Question for you at the home and you in the call here: event movie. Who is it? Is it? We'll
I
discuss.
mean,
We'll
I do
discuss.
think we're going to go Coco Loco.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But until then, listeners, remember that you've got a friend in us.
Ka-chow. He doesn't even say ka-chow in this movie.
Oh my God, he does.
Yeah, other people say it.
vroom, 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 vroom.